Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. Hey, thank you for being back on the channel, Mosaic Sparks. I believe this may be our fifth episode. So we're so glad that you're here. And our platform is in so many different countries: Australia, UK. The other day I saw Russia. So thank you for viewing in. As always, we have incredible women, visionary women on this platform. But before I get into my guest this morning, I want you to settle in. And let me just quickly introduce myself. So, I'm Leslie George, and I'm the CEO founder of Mosaic Inc., where Mosaic Inc. is a platform where we have designed that for women to unleash their voice. I believe that women's voices are so important. And so, we're here to help you build that confidence to unleash your voice. And we do that in a plethora of different ways, whether it's helping you publish your book, whether I'm on stage speaking, or whether I'm doing a workshop. So that's what we do here at Mosaic Inc. And also an offshoot, Mosaic Sparks, which is a platform for incredible women to come on and share their expertise. I'm at home and you can hear my dogs, so I'm gonna close the door after I bring on Dr. Michelle. Don't tell nobody, got the dogs. But anyway, let me introduce our incredible guest this morning. So, Dr. Michelle Vann is the evangelist of wellness with a community service at heart. Featured TEDx speaker, international presenter. She's an Amazon best-selling author of books that help women heal their minds, bodies, and soul. She's the owner of, check this out, Fantastic Solutions. Like, I love that, right? Play on words. We were talking back in the green room, and I was kind of asking her, like, where did this name come from? So we're going to talk about that so that you can really see how this name is really embedded in her family lineage, right? Because that's one thing I like to talk about is legacy. She's a confidence coach. She's confident coach in practice, specializes in wellness, and the founder of Sisters Can We Talk? That's always so important, right? Which is a nonprofit working to fill gaps in health disparities among women. And as an educator and wellness coach, Michelle lives by George Bernard Shaw's belief that life is no life is no brief candle to you. It is a sort of splendor torch which I have got to hold as far for the moment and want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing on to the future generation. Now, what a great mantra motto to live by. Dr. Vann serves in her local church and various community organizations. She's married to Dr. William Vann for 33 years, and they have two beautiful adult children. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well, right? But before any further ado, I'm going to get myself out the way. Well, I'm going to stay on a little bit, but I'm going to bring on none other than Dr. Vann. Dr. Vann,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Mosaic Sparks platform, which is a platform for visionary women. And I'm so glad that you are here. I
Glad to be here.
gave people a little preview of who you are, but I want to give you the stage so you can tell the people what is it or who is Dr. Vann.
All right. Um, as Leslie stated, I am the evangelist of wellness. As I have matriculated through life, I started out as an educator, public edu. I taught public school for about 20 years. And in doing that, I worked with a group called Young Life and mentored a lot of young ladies and young men into growth. As I did that, one of the things that I really began to understand was that young people, though we teach them a lot of things, they were struggling with adulting. And so that was really where my coaching started and really where I began to really look at this piece of wellness. If we are not well, if we are not well, mind, body, and spirit, we cannot help anyone else. And so that's really where all of the pieces of wellness come from, all of the pieces of making sure that we were okay. My great grandmother had breast cancer. My grandfather had colorectal cancer. And I just, in my mind, I think as a kid, I probably wanted to be a doctor, but um, didn't really go that way. And so there was a piece in which I really wanted to see what can we do to make sure that we are all healthy. And I know that people, when I say evangelist, they immediately lean their mind towards church, but all evangelist is a person who proclaims something. And so I just want to proclaim wellness in the church, in the organizations, in the community. I just want to help women and men, but particularly women, make sure that they understand how to be well, mind, body, and soul.
I love it. Yes, evangelist of wellness. So before we get into some other questions, I want you to, kind of think about if you could create a wellness retreat anywhere in the world, combining spiritual teaching, physical well-being, where would it be and what would it look like?
So I love the fact that you asked me this because literally someone just, I have been challenged to start doing more retreats. Um, and so locally, I've been using Airbnbs and trying to find, I always try to find water. If I could do one internationally, I think I would like to do Fiji or somewhere like that, like that's just, beautiful bodies of water where people had their own little personal bungalows and little spaces where we could, do yoga and stretch and have time to reflect and have time to really um, tap into who you are and where you are and what you need to do, time to read and time to pray and time to come together and challenge each other to move higher. So I think if I were able to go internationally, it would be kind of, Fiji or somewhere like that. Um, Locally, like I said, I've been doing Airbnbs. And so my retreats, I'm going to do a wellness retreat, a forgiveness retreat at the end of September. So,
I love that. I've never heard of a forgiveness retreat.
mhm.
Are you able to just expand a little bit about that?
Well,
Um,
so one of my mentors, um, we have been working through this piece of forgiveness, and so we started as a caregivers retreat. In the summer, I do a retreat for caregivers, and so during that time, one of the things we realized, or one of the things that one of my mentors brought up, was that a lot of times people are angry. Um, I'm angry that my life has changed. I'm angry that I have to take care of you. I'm angry that, I prayed and prayed and prayed and God did not heal you. And so sometimes elder abuse happens because, or even abuse with children. Say I gave birth to this child and this was not what I had planned. I didn't plan for my child to have a disability. I didn't plan for my child not to be able to walk or to run or to, do any of those things. And so sometimes that disappointment because um, that child or that person is not who we plan for them to be, sometimes we can be angry, and so that forgiveness piece needs to be there in order for us to be able to fulfill our duties.
My goodness, that is really deep. That is really getting to the root of, like you said, angry. Yes, Maxine, thank you. Let me just I'm gonna put up Maxine's comment on here.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the way that you worded it. I didn't plan for my child to be disabled. We didn't plan for to take care of you. So that is so. It is so real,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is so real. Yet I have not heard anyone talk about that in the
I
way that.
mean, and you think about it, like we have an ideal. You're pregnant, you have this ideal of what you expect. I'm going to have this beautiful child. They're going to be brilliant. They're going to go out and do all of these things, and if they are physically deformed, if they are mentally, if they're neurodivergent, what does that look like, and how does that change how I interact with them and how I interact with the world and how I have to answer questions and does that change my expectation for them and for our future when what God gave me isn't what I asked for.
Wow, that's good. So Dr. Van and I were on a summit probably about 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that she mentioned, and I want to share that, which really stood out to me. She said, "Before you dump, ask before you dump, ask if your pain. Basically, before you trauma dump, ask if it's okay."
Well, so my premise is this. Um, sometimes people have the capacity to help you, and sometimes people have the capacity to hear what you have to say. Other times they don't. So before you go in and you just, lay your burdens on someone else, ask them if they have the capacity to hear, to listen, and to respond, because they may not. And if they don't, be okay with that, and be okay with being able to say, okay, cool, and move on to someone else. If that's the way that you need to process that. I have been utterly appreciative when friends or you know associates will say, hey, do you have the capacity to listen to this? Because it gives me the opportunity to say, yes, I'm open, go for it. Or to say, I'm struggling myself right now, I don't really have the capacity.
Talk a lot about authenticity, and exactly what you just said for me is part of being authentic,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We could be family members. I could love you like whatever. We're best friends. We're friends, whatever. And I feel, in terms of boundaries, me asking you if it's okay and if you have the capacity, like you said, to hear, listen, and respond,
Hmm.
right? I think those are the three important words.
Hmm.
And so if I'm asking you, if you have the bandwidth
Right.
to take whatever I'm going to lay on you, and if you don't, it's okay.
Hmm.
And those are some practices that I feel that we need to do more of, and I wanted to bring that up so that our listeners can hear that if you've never heard of that before, and maybe that's something you can start to incorporate, and let people around you know it's okay. I don't love you any less because
Absolutely.
today is not the day that I can't. I just can't. Today's just like I got some stuff going on in my
Mhm.
background, right? And I'm not ready to kind of tell you everything, but now you're coming to me to lay things on me. It's okay.
I started that practice when I was teaching, because I would, at the very beginning of the school year, I would tell my kids, hey, if you come in and it's a bad day, something happened before you got here, let me know so that we don't, we ain't banging, but let me know right up front so that we know how to deal with it. And I'll let you know up front. If this is not a good day, if things are not going well, I'm going to tell you and you tell me so we know how to deal with each other. And it's the same practice.
That's it's such so incredible. So we're gonna shift a little bit, and with your extensive experience in community service, what are some of the common wellness challenges you see, and how do you address them through your various initiatives?
Yeah, one of the biggest wellness things that I see is that women don't take care of themselves. They put themselves on the back burner. They take care of everybody but themselves. The other thing that I see is that, as a people, especially Black people, we tend to say, "Well, what I don't know won't hurt me, but what you don't know will kill you if you're not careful." And so I think if we don't if we're not proactive, if we're not making sure that we're getting those scans, if we're not making sure that we're going to get those regular checkups, if we're making sure that we're not getting, those regular visits with our doctor, with our therapist, with, whoever we have in our lives, with our eye doctor. When was the last time you had a mammogram? When was the last time you had a colonoscopy? Those are all questions that I ask. And if you can't immediately say, oh yeah, I had one, 6 months ago, or I had one, within the last year, then it's been too long. It's been too long. If when was the last time you saw a dentist? A lot of our mental health things and things that are going on with our body are due to our dentist, our dental work or lack thereof. The other thing that I see is that we have, especially in the African American community, we have a big gap in those that have insurance and don't have insurance. And so, because of that, We see people that won't go, but there are safety net clinics all over the United States. Um, while they may not necessarily be, what you think would be the best care, making sure that you're at least know what's going on, taking care of that diabetes early, taking care of kidney disease and liver disease and things like that early. Stop smoking, stop drinking. Those are all things that, I mean, and I'm not saying that you can't have, a glass of wine here or there, or whatever, but the excessive things and hard liquors and things like that are killing our livers and kidneys. Those are things we got to look at. A lot of our wellness issues, health issues, are lifestyle issues.
Wow, you dropped a nugget when you said what you don't know will kill you.
Mhm.
You hear the phrase, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And different things like that we have these sayings in our community.
Not with your health.
Not with your health. Like that, what you don't know will kill you. And that's so true. Right. And sometimes we want to bury our heads in the sand and not even ask questions.
Yeah.
And I will let me emphasize what you said, that yeah, because there is a disparity with people that have insurance and people that don't, right?
But before you go to that, let's go back just a second, because you said with our families, and I think one of the things Mosaic is about legacy, and I think we have to start having those conversations with our family. What happened to Nana? Did she have a kidney disease? Did she have liver
Mm.
disease? Did she have a heart attack? Did she have, Crohn's? Did she have, you know, it? What did she have? What was going on? So we need to know the history of our family, our health history, because yes, we talk about legacy when it comes to finance, but what's your legacy of health? Because if there were issues, you know, in my husband's family, his aunt had breast cancer. Well, it became very imperative that her daughters were then tested. One of them had cancer. The other one did not. One of them had breast cancer. She chose to have a mastectomy and remove both of her breasts. But if they had not known what was going on with their mom, if their mom had just kept that to herself, passed away, they would have never known. They wouldn't have been tested. So I think as we look at legacy, we also have to look at legacy of health.
I'm gonna give you some words, right? These bombs that you be dropping, I'm gonna call them Vanisms. Because you just be dropping them. Maxine put out a fear we don't want to know, and
Right.
and
But here's the thing, if we don't know, we can't do anything about it. Breast cancer, yes, it's scary. But if we get on it early, if we attack it early, we can live. We can do chemo, we can do radiation. Depending on what size it is, it can be removed sometimes as a lumpectomy. But you live. If I don't do anything about it, if I hide it, if I pretend like it's not there, it will kill me. It's not going to just magically go away.
mm, 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 mm. We know so many stories. One very recently from me, a friend of mine, her sister's best friend. She had, and she's a nurse, by the way. She was a nurse.
Hmm.
She had a lump at the side of her face
Hmm.
for years, and she would make excuses as it started to get bigger, of why they couldn't come and visit her and so forth. Long story short, she passed away in April,
Hmm.
and had a 17-and-a-half-year-old son. But as you said, if we don't do anything about it, and apparently people, when I say years, they want to say, because it was way before the pandemic. So
Mm,
they're saying 5, 6 years,
yeah.
and people will tell her, you're gonna go get that checked or whatever, and she wouldn't. So it turned out that she had, I guess, bone cancer
Yeah.
in her, like in
Hmm.
her mouth or something,
Hmm.
and she didn't want to share with anyone.
But it
Um,
wasn't the same thing if you have done something when you very first saw it.
yeah,
Maybe, and maybe it might not have been curable,
right,
but
right, right.
but the pain could have been manageable, and you could have been here a little longer.
Yeah,
17, I'm just getting my life started.
yeah, yeah. Wow. Whew. Well, as we're talking about that, and you talked about, stop smoking and all these different things, and we're talking about what we don't know will kill us
Mhm.
and fear of knowing and not getting things checked in time. What are some success stories that you may have heard of that, um, maybe the doctor told them something and they decided, well, I'm going to move forward and do some positive changes, and the outcome was a little bit better. Do you have any success stories
I
that
have
you could
two
share with?
that I have two that popped into my head. So
Please share.
the first one is a young lady who we had a mammogram event. We had an event and had a mammogram bus there, and she kept saying, "Oh, I've been putting this off. I hadn't had time to go," and she someone canceled. Someone didn't show up. So we said, "Hey, girl, go on, go ahead and get checked." Well, because she got checked, she found out that she did have breast cancer. She was immediately able to go in. They got it out. They were able to remove it, and she's doing great. One success story. The other one I would say would be my sister. Now, success looks different for everyone. So my sister was in the hospital. She was in the hospital for about 2 years before she passed away, and so that is success as well. But she, the part that just was amazing. She went through a lot. She ended up being on a ventilator. She was on dialysis, and there was a point in which she began to speak over the ventilator, which, from doctor standpoint, is literally impossible. She has this balloon that's inflated in her chest. She starts talking over the ventilator and basically telling us, "I want to go home. I'm going to go home." And, we're thinking, "Yeah, right. You've been in the hospital for 2 years, off and on. I don't know." So she says, "No, I'm going home. I prayed about it. I'm going home." Long story short, within a couple of, within a few weeks, she goes from having this ventilator, having this dialysis, to being the ventilator coming out. She calls me and says, "Hey, they took the ventilator out." And I'm like, "What? They did what?" This is like March. She said, "Yeah, I can come home in a few weeks." This is maybe second week in March. End of March was Christmas. I mean, was Easter. And she said, "Yeah, I can come home." Long story short, April, she comes home, um, talking, moving, functioning, and spent almost a little over a month with us, just sharing what God had done. And in her own words, how she had been healed, how she had been trapped in her body for all of this time, yet she saw God heal. And right after, and literally our prayer had been, make the doctors a lie. Let her come home, let her tell her testimony. And literally she did. She told her testimony on Monday, and she passed away on Friday, um, early Saturday morning. And so for us, while victory doesn't look and success doesn't look the same for everybody, she got the ultimate success.
Wow. Wow. That is an incredible story.
It was
And
amazing.
oh my gosh, just I want to say maybe it was like 2 days ago, I was saying to my husband, we talk a lot about heaven and when we will see him after we pass and so forth. But I said, really and truly, nobody's come back and told us, right? But the story that you just gave, she was on a ventilator for 2 years on and off, spoke over her life, spoke over the ventilator, was able to come home and share with you guys.
Yeah,
Like, that is incredible.
yeah,
And you were able to love on her and be with her outside of the hospital.
yeah,
And like you said, sometimes we will pray for things and don't understand that it doesn't show up the same way all the time.
yeah,
But here, in terms of the way your family was able to like get a total 360.
Oh, it was
That is
amazing.
so
It
beautiful.
was utterly amazing to watch. From the times when we had just seen, and we would be like, oh gosh, I don't know if this is going to be it, and she would just bounce back, you know, and so it was amazing.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for sharing that story. That is absolutely amazing. Now, in your when you are speaking and coaching and so forth and doing workshops, it just puts me to what you just did just a while ago, the
Mhm.
power of storytelling.
Mhm.
And you know, the power of storytelling, it is so profound
Mhm.
because we're able to connect on a different level. And not only that, you as a speaker, you're a TEDx speaker, international speaker, and so forth, when people can hear that even in your own family, you've gone through some things. I think that
Oh,
that's so
absolutely.
important. Is that something that on your wellness journey, sharing with women and sharing the various different stories, is that something you remind women that, you know, their story does matter?
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, the way this will turn out will be a great testimony for you as
Absolutely.
well. Is that something you do share
Absolutely.
with women?
Yeah, I think the thing is that, because people look a certain way, you can have a perception about me because you see my pictures, you see the things. Because of social media, we see people and we assume that their lives are a certain way. We don't know the struggles that they go through in the midnight. We don't know the mental struggles that they go through. We don't know, whether or not they're being abused domestically. We don't know whether or not, they, because they can smile and because they can come out, because they have their church face on. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know the darkness that's happening inside of their mind, or the fights that are happening. And so I think it's important that, just because a book looks good, we don't know what's happening to the raggedy pages that are inside sometimes. And so we can't immediately just say because they look good, they can't have any struggles and they don't have any battles. Not true. Um, because I can look good, because I can put makeup on it, doesn't mean that there's not struggles and doesn't mean that there's not things that are happening.
The church face. I like that. I want to welcome Candy. Candy, welcome, welcome to the platform. And Maxine has been with us early this morning and has been sharing some great insights as well. So we're going to shift a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, how long have you been on this wellness journey? How long have you been an entrepreneur?
So I've been an entrepreneur. My husband and I started our very first business, which had nothing to do with wellness, when we very first got married. So about 32 years ago. We've been married for 33, but we probably started our first business around in our first year, somewhere in there. And so we've done business. We started doing metal refinishing, and then he took over that business, and I went and taught for 20 years. And now I kind of came back out. I retired from teaching in like 2016, and so really began to work on um, Fantastic Solutions and Sisters Can We Talk, and making sure that we started to have this wellness platform of how do we help women be well, mind, body, and spirit. How do we push them to greatness? How do we um, open platforms for them? And so that's really kind of how that. So around 2016 is when I really started working on this wellness piece.
Push women to greatness. Absolutely love it. I'm going to come back to 30 something years. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that. But you are also a TEDx speaker.
Mhm.
And I know that for some of the women that are watching, we might have a few good men as well. That is something that's like a thing that speakers, coaches, mentors kind of look for to kind of say that they are a TEDx speaker. Can you share with us one kind of what that process was like for you. And anything else you want to share around that whole TEDx speaker
Yeah.
process?
So I applied for TED for a TED talk. Um, so I did it at a university, and it was a university that I was actually they were looking for alum to kind of come, and so I applied and just said, hey, send in my video, and I applied and was accepted. Um, Fortunately or unfortunately, when I applied, it was the year of COVID. So our initial time when we were supposed to do our actual TED talk, um, we couldn't do it because it was right after the shutdown. So we didn't do it until the next year. And when I did it, my husband and my kids and the person who was the coordinator and the people that were recording were the only people in the room. So when I recorded, I looked at the audience as if there was audience members there, and there was literally no one in the audience but me, uh, but my family. And so that was a little weird. You couldn't really get interaction, um, like sometimes happens, but it was good. It. I'm on there. If you go to the TED site, you'll find my video, and I have it on my page too.
And so, was it a rigorous process? Was it a lot of training? For myself, I've seen that, you need to train for a year and all this other stuff that's out there online. There's people that charge you to train.
They
There's all
do.
this. Oh yeah,
Did none of that.
there's all this stuff out there.
There is.
So,
People are making great money on it, but I didn't do any of that.
okay, okay. So,
So
so
I
that
literally just applied and sent my video in, and I was accepted.
wow.
Now I think the key to mine may have been that they were looking for alum for the university, and so the people that so they that kind of narrowed, I guess, somewhat. There were a few people that weren't alum from the university that they did accept too, but they were kind of looking for people that were willing to do it. And I think they chose 6 of us,
Okay,
and I think 30 people applied.
okay. And so that was during the pandemic. So what we're talking 2020,
Hmm.
2021.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We have a comment from Candy that she would love to speak with you.
Sure.
And so which is incredible, right? And that's what this platform is about. That's what any of my platforms are about, is for women connecting with one another.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. Kind of looking ahead, the other day, I don't know if you watch Oprah's special that she had on AI, and she was with Bill Gates and
Mhm.
several other people talking about AI. Um, so, and the way that I look at AI is kind of looking ahead. And so, you've been in this industry. You're in evangelism of wellness. What are some things or trends that you may have seen or privy to that you see will be coming in the future that maybe we're not thinking about that? Isn't that anything that you have been thinking about in terms of trends and things that will be popping up in the future?
I don't know that necessarily about trends per se, but I think what I am curious about right now is all of the people that are on, you know, some of these drugs to lose weight. I'm curious as to what's going to happen, especially if you are not diabetic. What's going to happen 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road? I think those are some of the things that I'm curious about. I'm curious right now about what it looks like. We have been talking to um, a company about how do we get mobile, independent scans for breast cancer and other forms of cancer that we can use in more rural areas where we can't take, big scanners or things of that nature. As we look at AI and as we look at virtual sorts of things, I'm in Kansas, So we have a lot of rural areas that the hospitals are being closed down, doctors are not serving. And so how do we use virtual means in which to assess and to help people stay healthy? So I think those are the things that really intrigue me right now.
Wow, you just said a mouthful. Um, and I know you may not see it as trends or whatever, but hospitals are closing. That's
Yeah, I mean, just funding. There's not,
right.
especially in rural areas. There's just not funding to keep hospitals open, and so people have to drive 2-3 hours to the hospital.
Wow. Yeah, that's
I think the other thing, well, and maybe a trend is doulas. I think people, we had doulas and midwives back in the day, and that's becoming more and more a thing as we move forward. So, how do you utilize those for birth and for death?
mm. My oldest daughter is 29, and back then I said I did not want to go to a hospital. I wanted, because I'm originally from the Caribbean,
Mhm.
and so I was born at home with a midwife. And so I said to them, I didn't know anything about the medical field or anything like that. I just said I know what I wanted. So back then in the 90s, they had birthing centers.
Right.
And so my oldest daughter was born in a birthing center. You can't find a birthing center nowhere around the place now. I had a wonderful experience. And, where the birthing center was located, it was near enough to a hospital. And they explained if there was
Mm-hmm.
complications or if anything happened, we will transport you.
Yeah.
Right. But I had a wonderful experience. I was there, had my daughter naturally. You hang out there for about 8 hours after the birth and you go home.
Right.
So that was a wonderful experience. Maxine says that three, she's had three children with midwives, which
Which
is
is amazing.
absolutely incredible. Candy, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, and Dr. Van will definitely answer it. So, ladies, if anyone that's here watching with us live, as we're here live, please go ahead and put whatever question that you have in the chat, and Dr. Van will definitely answer that. I'll make sure that I bring it up so that she can answer that. As we're talking about, we talked about fantastic. Can you share with the people, where does I know your last name is Van. How does somebody start a company called Fantastic Solutions? Because for me, when I think of that, I just think of just seeing the name, I feel at ease. Just seeing the name just already brings down a lot of boundaries for me. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an amazing experience, right? So kind of share with us that.
Yeah, so it's just a play off of our name, and several of us, I use it, Fantastic Solutions. My son uses it. He's a barber, and so he uses the Fantastic chair. My nephew uses it. So several of us use it as a play off of our name to kind of keep that legacy there, and we spell it out so that it is part of our name. And so that's kind of how we did it, because it's a play off of being fantastic. So yeah, and my husband used it even when he um, used to when he subbed, he would call himself Mr. Fantastic. So we've kind of just played off of it for a while.
Love it, love it, love it. Candy, go ahead and put whatever question you have, or whatever you wanted to mention on Ozempic, because Candy wanted to speak on the Ozempic dilemma. So go ahead and put whatever you wanted to mention about Ozempic. In terms of wellness, what is a typical misconception people have about, maintaining a holistic lifestyle, and how do you go about educating them? Because you hear, especially in our community, in the Black community, right? Oh, to eat healthy costs more. Like that is, I don't know who started that, because a lot of stuff sometimes gets started by marketing, right? Somebody puts a soundbite out there and they just run with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in our community, you will hear it is more expensive to eat healthier. It's more expensive for organic. You hear all these other things where the way that we eat, and as you've mentioned all these other different things, it's really lifestyle.
Mhm.
So the way that we eat really and truly governs all these other things. So can you share some of your experiences, because I know you probably had so many conversations with people on that, of how to balance that lifestyle. And I don't think that, anyone, as you are an evangelist of wellness, you are beyond a champion of wellness, right? And I know that anyone in that space, they're not telling you to don't enjoy life.
Absolutely not.
Right? But I think for some reason people get this, it's all or nothing. So
Mhm.
share, please share.
Yeah, I think for me, part of what we did personally was we started to grow things so that, there were things that we loved to eat that we could eat, and it wasn't as expensive. I think, when you get into the things where, for a while organic was the craze, and they charged a lot, and they charged a lot mainly because they could. But I think with farmers markets and, there is this push for more healthy living. I think being able to eat healthy is so much easier now. You can look at things like the online where you can order. I know my daughter lives alone, and so one of the things that she's able to do so that she eats healthy and she gets a good balanced meal and she doesn't waste is to use one of those services. And I won't say any names of any of them, but uses a service where it's portioned out. You get a recipe, and you can try new things, and you can try new adventures. I think the thing is, again, I do believe it is marketing, but to get a salad and to eat it for a couple of days, to really take the time and know what's in your food. I know growing up, my grandparents, we grew up on a farm, and so we knew what we were eating. We knew what was in it. We knew, we didn't always love it. I didn't love it as a child, but I've learned to appreciate it as an adult, of just being able to eat from the garden. That's where, in the beginning there was a garden. Adam and Eve were placed in the garden, and so everything that we need is in the garden.
Adam and Eve was in the garden. Ooh, mouthful right there. Candy mentioned that with the drugs, it sends people into diabetic positions. And Maxine has said that my family and I started our own garden, and we even have chickens also.
We
Kudos to you,
do.
Max. That's amazing. Kudos
Yeah,
to you.
I mean, so and simple. I mean, and sometimes people think, oh, well, I live in the city and I can't. There are very few places where you can't have at least one or two chickens. You'd be surprised. Your neighbors probably have some. They just have them hidden, and they because they don't really require a whole lot. Um, so you can have your own chickens. A garden can be as simple as putting some planters on a patio. You don't have to necessarily, because people think, oh, I have to have all this room. No, you don't. I mean, yes, it would be great. The more room you have, the more you can make. But you can grow peppers, you can grow tomatoes, you can grow cabbage in your flower bed, and we all have space for flower bed.
So that is removing whatever excuses that we may want to come up with, right? Removing all of that, putting our head in the sand for doing different things. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for sharing that. So I'm going to come back to being married for 30 something years.
Yep.
And so how do you see, I'm going to use the word black love,
Yep.
playing a critical role in even wellness and personal well-being, right? So as the two of you have been navigating this life for 30 something years, I think that that's so important for even, let's even go further, your children and other generations. So you really are an evangelist of wellness, because as we know, God says it's not good for us to be alone, right? And that can be taken into so many different avenues. but here you are really and truly living that out
Mhm.
in your family. So if you can share, um, for like I said, for future generations, if you can share a little bit on that.
Yeah, I think, as you start to look at, longevity, as you start to look at going back to that, two are better than one, um, that threefold cord, the both of the people in the relationship plus God being in that relationship makes it strong, makes us be able to fight, and we don't have to fight alone. We can fight, back to back. There are things I'm fighting, there are things he's fighting, there are things that we fight together. There are things that as we look at family, as we look at history, as we look at legacy, you know having grandparents who were married almost 60 years, having his parents almost married almost 50 years. Um, all of that makes a difference. It makes a difference in how we look and how our outlook is. When you think about health, um, when we can do it together, when we can um, encourage each other to eat right, or why are you eating those cookies today? That kind of thing. Oh, it's always helpful. It's helpful not to have to do things alone. It's helpful to have that companion. It's helpful in our walk. Um, you know, doing ministry together is an amazing thing. Um, so I think it's just been. I think at this point I've been married longer than I was ever single. So
That is absolutely, absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much. So as we're getting ready to wrap up, I always like to ask about legacy, right? And as you mentioned, legacy is not just about financial. And when I speak on legacy, I am always speaking for future generations. The reason why is because the reason why I started Mosaic is because of my grandmother.
mm-hmm,
My grandmother is very, very. I think about her probably 8 million times a day.
mm-hmm,
And the reason why I started my company was with her in mind.
mm-hmm,
So legacy for me is, what are you carrying forward? And one time I even heard Oprah say that legacy, because as we know, she does, well, we don't know, but according, she doesn't have any children.
mm-hmm.
And I heard her say that legacy is every person that you touch.
Absolutely.
And so that's why it's so important for me. And I'm one that I don't, the financial piece is part of it.
Mm-hmm,
And now you've helped me by adding in the wellness piece,
mm-hmm.
because if we're not well,
Right.
healthy, we ain't got nothing to pass down really,
That part.
right? So that part important. So so the fine, even the financial, you can have as much money as you want.
Mm-hmm.
You can some
We
kind
know
of
people that have, that their kids struggle because we didn't have the wellness. We didn't have, some of those other things.
yeah. So that wellness piece, I want to thank you today for really dropping that and really emphasizing how important that is, because um, yeah, and even, even being a champion for having those conversations, what happened to Nana, or what happened to whatever, knowing your mom's history and so forth. So, that those things are so important. So looking ahead, um, what legacy do you hope to leave through your work in wellness, community service, and how do you envision your teachings and innovations continue to impact others way beyond your personal involvement?
Well, my husband has a saying: to live beyond your lifetime requires an investment in the future. And so we have to invest in, others. We have to invest in our youth, but we also have to invest in those kids that are around the corner and those kids that are down the street. And I think for my years of teaching public school and working with Young Life and working with, you know, all the things that I have done, I think that I have touched the lives of some young people. But I think one of the things, Leslie, that you might not even realize, but when we were on the talk the other week, The thing that you sparked in me is that um, my family, we are going to, my cousins, and we've been having this conversation. We're going to start writing an anthology around all of the women in our family. So there are just some beautiful, powerful women. Um, and we're going to write a book about the life and the love and the legacy of these beautiful women who have sown seeds into our lives. But we don't want our children to forget them. We don't want our children's children, we want them to be able to know them. And while oral history is great, it is beautiful. Um, the problem that we have is that oral history will die with the person that holds on to it. And so, what we want to do is be able to, all of us from each tribe, to be able to write stories, beautiful stories, poems, recipes, things that made them who they were. We want to share those with our children. And so, after our talk, and after your talk, it just sparked that we needed to write. And so that's our goal. We're going to have a come together around Thanksgiving, and really flesh out who's going to do what and what does that look like, and how do we pull these recipes together? How do we pull these beautiful sayings together? My grandmother used to always, and it didn't matter where she was, it didn't matter who was there. She always said, "We make no excuse for the things we have here, for this that we have, the Lord has provided, and we are thankful." And so, because of that, we want to write and we want to make sure that our babies know that we are thankful.
Oh my God. I
It still
mm,
gets me.
mm, mm, mm. Whew, I did not know that.
Yeah, after
And
you
what
talked, I
you
was just like, I literally texted my cousin and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we have to do this." And she was like, "I'm down. Let's go."
wow, wow.
So my grandfather was the oldest boy of 10. So there's five boys and five girls. And so we're going to just each one of those 10, somebody in that family is going to write about the women that were in their particular lineage, and then we're going to put it all together.
Mm, mm, mm. I Now that's fantastical. That is, oh my God. That, oh my God. Oh Jesus. I have no words. Oh my God. Ooh, you just blessed me. You did, because in anyone that's watching, in any field that you're in, sometimes you wonder what you're doing. Is like your passion for people to write and to share their story, is that important, or is you're the only one that feels that this important?
Yeah.
And what you just shared was absolutely amazing. And I already I see it in my head because I'm very visual. So I
Mhm.
see this book that has one section with all the recipes and the quotes and the sayings and the,
Yeah.
oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
You touch and bless my soul. Definitely. Yeah, yeah. The women are saying this is fantastic. And Candy is saying she loves this. And
Thank you so much.
yes, absolutely. And you know what I love about that as well? You took immediate action. And as you said, something sparked for you, and you just started texting your family members.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, some we can hear something, and it kind of just kind of
Yeah.
disappears. And then, oh my God, a year goes by, and 2 years goes by, and 3 years goes by, and we never did anything. But congratulations to you taking immediate action and getting everybody involved. And I can't wait to hear how Thanksgiving goes,
Yes.
for everybody to have come together and decide what all they're doing. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
It's
So
going to be good.
as we get ready to wrap up, what is something that you would like to leave besides that amazing gem that you just left about legacy? What is something that you would like to leave with the people? Tell the people. Um, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I think as we leave and as we think about and going, we're starting to head into the winter and starting to head into um, the fall, where we have, more family sorts of things, where we are maybe inside a little bit more. One, I want you to really think about seasonal depression. I want you to be cognizant of the fact that because it's going to start getting darker sooner, we need to be really cognizant of, am I taking enough vitamin D? Am I getting enough vitamin K? Am I nourishing my body well enough to make sure that I can fight off what could happen with less light? I want you to really think through, do I know my family history? Do I know the diseases, the mental health things that have happened? Do I know whether, someone has had schizophrenia or paranoia or bipolar? Do I know whether somebody had diabetes or heart disease? Um, what do I know about my family? And if I don't, how and who do I need to ask? How do I need to begin to journal and to write and to make sure that my children's children's children know who we are and what we're doing? Uh, I'm open, if they're, um, I'm on every social media piece there is. I'm on, well, except for TikTok. I'm not there because I have addictive personality and I would never get anything done. So, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. I'm Coach Fantastic, most places. And I'm also J. Michelle Vann. So you can find me either place. And Sisters Can We Talk? It's SISTAHS. Sisters Can We Talk? And I'm available for speaking engagements, to encourage, for coaching, just to make sure that I give you a perspective that comes from what should have been the conversations that you were having with your mom or your auntie and your grandma that maybe we're not having anymore. And that's what we do.
Great perspective. Um, and we have a Malata. Thank you for joining. Very inspiring. Thank you so much for joining. Glad that you are here. Um, when I talk about my grandmother, one of the things that, like at 5 and 6 years old, what I loved is I couldn't wait until the end of the night because she owned a liquor store. And so I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't wait till the end of the night so that we can get together and I could hear her stories. Like
Mm-hmm.
that to me was like, okay, we just need to hurry up and do all the business and do all the whatever and get to the talking. And so as you said, the conversations that we're not having anymore with our parents and our grandparents. And for me, mm,
I remember my grandma sharing with me about menopause, and as a kid, I was like, "What? Can't be that bad." Oh my God! Everything she said was so right, so right, so right.
For me, women are like one of my favorite flowers is the orchid. But women are like this incredible flower.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, age is such a beauty and a blessing
Mm-hmm.
that as we get older, this flower opens up and your aroma and the smell is just so contagious that these bees are coming in which are the different generations, right?
Yeah.
Because that's literally how I see it because I know because that was my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like at 5 and 6 years old, I don't think 5 and 6 year olds are talking to their grandmother. But for me, I wanted to hear I can remember every story that lady will say over and
Yeah.
over and over. And it's so funny that now every time something pops up, I have this smile on my face because Oh, that's what she was talking about. Because back in the day,
Exactly.
they used to speak in like these
Oh, that
parables.
makes sense now.
And they would speak in parables, right? They
It
wouldn't speak in
literally,
like proper English, right?
right.
And so now it makes so much sense. So thank you for saying that piece of women having conversations that they did not have with their mom or their grandmother or whatever. Because I feel that for younger generations now coming up,
It
that
is.
is so important.
Mhm.
So important. So once again, I am thank Maxine, thank you for being here. All the ladies,
Thank you
thank you
all.
for being here with us this morning. I know Saturday morning people can be doing a whole lot of things, but for me, I think this platform is so important, and you know why. One of the things I wanted to touch on, Dr. Vann, you mentioned about seasonal depression.
Mhm.
And I would not have named it that. All I know is, although I'm here in Florida, all I know is once October hits,
Yep.
it gets dark at 5,
Yep.
5:30, right? And every year I dread it. And
Yep.
I'm actually I go to the calendar ahead of time so I know when the time change is, because like that's just something I'm anticipating every year. There's no way I would have quoted that as seasonal depression.
Yeah. So it's about October to about February, March.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So even us living in Florida, when we have that time change, like what is it that you're experiencing even that time? But let me just say something, Dr. Van. You got some Vanisms that you done dropped on us today. That is absolutely incredible. So um, I don't know if there's anything else you want to drop
We
on
are
us
good.
before we are good.
We're good.
Ladies, once again, thank you for being here with us. If you come back to the channel and just let us know that you're watching on the replay. Just put in hashtag replay. Let us know where you're viewing from, and we would love to get back and answer your comments. Absolutely, Jody Fitzpatrick. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that you are here. And Candy says yes, grandma stories. Nothing more beautiful than grandma stories. So, ladies, we're out. Thank you so much. Catch Dr. Vann on all of her platforms. She would love to connect with you. But on this beautiful Saturday, we'll say bye for now.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye.